Mary Stuart had lost her crown, her freedom, and almost everyone she could trust. All England had to do now was make her right. By the time this story reaches her, she is no longer the young queen with music in her chambers and France in her ear. She is a captive in England, a queen by blood, yes, a danger by inheritance, certainly, but in the daily practical sense, she is a woman in borrowed rooms under other people's keys. That is the cruelty of it. They do not throw her into some storybook dungeon with rats and chains and dripping walls. England is far cleverer than that. England gives her decent linen, guarded doors, respectable confinement, long hallways, cold fireplaces, and enough ceremony to remind her every morning what has been taken. A prison dressed as a household, which is a very English way of insulting someone of rank. She wakes in chill rooms where the tallow stinks before dawn. She hears boots in corridors before she sees faces. She feels the weight of old velvet on shoulders that once wore a crown without asking permission from anyone. She has servants, yes, but servants can listen. She has letters now and then, but letters can be opened. She has prayer, but prayer is a poor substitute for power, especially if you were born to the latter and expected the former only on Sundays and in danger. And Mary has had plenty of danger, years of it, years of waiting, years of being moved from house to house across the English landscape, from one respectable captivity to another, while outside her windows the country rolls on in hedges, fields, church bells, wet roads, and winter mud as if nothing at all is wrong. Crows hop in the grass, horses steam in the yard, men carry firewood. Somewhere a cartwheel complains in the lane. England does not stop because a queen is being slowly reduced. It simply keeps count. And reduction, in truth, is what this is. Not the reduction of food or clothing, the reduction of self. A queen can endure hunger. A queen can endure scandal. A queen can endure defeat if she must. But being made to wait, being made harmless, that gets into the bones. It seeps in through habit, through silence, through the daily arrangement of chairs, through the fact that every door must be opened for you by a man who does not serve you. That is how they work on her, not with blows, with attrition, until one day hope arrives, not marching under banners, not blowing trumpets. Hope comes the way treason usually does, folded small, a hidden channel, a cipher, a way through the walls. A letter reaches her with the dangerous suggestion that she is not forgotten, that there are still men beyond these guarded corridors who speak her name as a cause, not a memory, that loyal Catholics still look south and north and west and see not merely Elizabeth on the English throne, but Mary Stuart waiting, rightful, wronged, and still useful to history. Useful, that is the word that bites, because captivity has taken from Mary more than liberty. It has taken usefulness. It has turned a crowned woman into an object under supervision, a problem to be managed by clerks, spies, jailers, and cautious noblemen who bow correctly while counting her spoons. Then this message arrives, and with it the most intoxicating thing a prisoner can be offered: agency. You can almost feel the room change around her. The air sharpens. The mind wakes. The old machinery begins again. She is no fool. That part matters. Tragedy is cheaper when built on stupidity, and Mary deserves the dearer kind. She knows England watches her. She knows Elizabeth's ministers are patient men with narrow eyes and steady hands. She knows that letters travel badly, that secrets rot, that plots attract idiots the way spilled ale attracts flies. She knows all this, and yet the chance to act opens something in her that confinement could never quite kill. She has been forced for years to think like prey, like supplicant, like a troublesome relic to be kept alive until convenient. Now suddenly she can think like a monarch again, weigh allies, measure risk, consider rescue, imagine movement, imagine a horse saddled in the dark, imagine doors opening outward for once, imagine not waiting. That is the temptation, not merely escape, restoration. She sits with paper before her, fingers stiff from cold, and begins to feel that old perilous warmth return, not comfort, something sharper, relevance. The pen is light in her hand and heavy in consequence. Ink gathers at the nib. Wax waits. Cipher waits. Men wait. History, that greedy creature, waits most of all. And outside, beyond her chamber, England continues in its ordinary way. Rain on stone, damp in the rushes, a guard clearing his throat. Somewhere down the passage, a door latch lifted and dropped. Whole kingdoms have turned on less sound than that. The correspondence grows. At first it is rescue. Rescue has a lovely smell to it when you are trapped. It smells like air after rain. It smells like horses, open gates, loyal gentlemen, hard riding by night. It smells like the self restored by action. Mary can almost breathe it. Then the thing hardens. Because rescue in these matters never travels alone. It brings companions, assassination, rebellion, foreign help, blood. Plans acquire names. Names acquire obligations, and the hopeful haze gives way to an uglier truth. To free Mary, others must move. To place Mary, others must fall. To make her queen in more than memory, England itself may have to be broken open. Here is the line, then, not between innocence and guilt in some clean schoolbook sense. Life is rarely that tidy, and 16th century politics less so. The line is between longing and consent, between dreaming of deliverance and accepting what deliverance may require. Mary stands at that line and looks at it as a queen, not as a saint. That matters too, because saints refuse the world and queens rule in it. Saints may keep their souls neat. Queens are not often given that luxury. They are given dynasties, factions, claims, cousins, confessions, men with daggers, men with petitions, men with plans, and the perpetual instruction that they must remain pure while everybody else soils their hands on their behalf. It is a convenient arrangement for the men. Mary has lived too long among such arrangements not to recognize one. She knows politics is made of ugly necessities dressed in lawful language. She knows self-justification when it comes, and it always comes well dressed. So she begins to persuade herself. A captive queen may think what a free queen would never need to say aloud. That necessity alters law. That injustice invites remedy. That usurpation can be corrected by force. That if men are already prepared to act, then her answer merely acknowledges the current of events. That she is not creating violence, only stepping back into the place from which violence has excluded her. It is cold reasoning. It is elegant reasoning. It is the kind that comes easiest after long suffering, because pain makes lawyers of us all. And while Mary reasons, other men work. This is where the net glints. Sir Francis Walsingham and his people are not romantics. They are not moved by velvet sorrow or claims of divine right. They are statesmen, patient men, men who understand that treason is easiest to prove when allowed to ripen. Somewhere beyond Mary's chamber, letters are intercepted, copied, read, carried on, watched. Channels she believes secret are being measured by other hands. Seals are inspected, ciphers cracked, messengers tracked. The English state does not rush, that is half its terror. It prefers to sit still and let hope do the dangerous part. And hope, as it happens, is doing excellent work. Because Mary is alive again in the very way that imperils her most. Her mind has sharpened, her pride has risen, her cause has weight in her own hand once more. Every exchange flatters the part of her captivity has starved. Every answer says, you are still central, still lawful, still expected, still queenly, still in play. And once a woman has been denied herself long enough, the offer of self-restoration can look wonderfully like truth. Then comes the fatal threshold. The room is close, the candle gutters. The paper lies before her with that horrible innocence paper always has before it is used for something irreversible. She reads, she thinks, she hesitates, not like a fool startled by danger, like an experienced player testing the board one last time. This is the moment, not the courtroom, not the scaffold, not the axe. Here, her hand tightens round the pen. She writes, slowly, carefully, as if carefulness could save her. She shapes consent in the guarded language of necessity. She commits thought to line, line to page, page to evidence. Ink dries where doubt should have held. She revises, she considers phrasing, she seals it. And there, in that small hard act of authorship, Mary Stuart feels for one last time like a queen. Not because she is free, she is not. Not because she is safe, she is very much not. Because she has acted. The letter leaves her hand and passes outward through the secret path she trusts. A cask, a carrier, a hidden route. However it goes beyond recall. And that is the nasty truth about writing. Once sent, your words develop loyalties of their own. Mary is left behind in the old silence. The chamber has not changed. The guarded house has not changed. The English weather has certainly not changed. The same damp presses at the windows. The same servants move. The same keys turn. Only now expectation lives in the room with her, pacing. Did she save herself? Did she condemn herself? Well, England already knows. The fist closes. What had been suspicion becomes proof. What had been inconvenience becomes prosecutable danger. Her enemies no longer need to argue at length about implication and possibility and foreign whispers. They have her words. Or enough of them. Enough to unfold before councils and courts and frightened statesmen who had long desired a cleaner path to the same destination. The change in atmosphere would have been immediate, and she would have felt it because prisoners become experts in the weather of other people's faces. Courtesy hardens first. That is always how power announces it has finished pretending. Questions grow narrower, doors grow heavier. The forms of respect remain, perhaps, but now they clink a little when they are set down. Mary, who has spent years learning to detect betrayal in tone, in delay, in glances over a letter too quickly folded, understands what has happened. Whether she sees every hinge of the trap or only the shape of it, the inward truth arrives all the same. The chance she seized was prepared for her. The act that made her feel alive again has made her legible to men who wanted exactly that. And now the law comes in with its papers, its seals, its grave expressions, its tremendous interest in procedure after the real decision has already been made elsewhere by fear, necessity, and the state's appetite for safety. This is the English genius for execution. First call it paperwork. Mary protests what she can. She draws on rank, on queenship, on the argument that an anointed sovereign should not be tried by subjects of another crown. She does not collapse into pleading. She still has too much steel for that. She has lived too near ruin for too long to mistake indignity for survival. But the road is narrowing and she knows it. The years of confinement, the grudges, the faith, the claim, the plots, the letters, Elizabeth's terror of a Catholic alternative, the machinery of Walsingham's surveillance, England's fear of disorder, all of it has been drawing together toward a blade, and now her own hand has helped set the edge. So the story passes from suspense into inevitability. Then, at last, we reach the ending. People remember, though not always for the right reason. Not the trap, not the cipher, not the long patient suffocation that made the trap possible. They remember the final dignity. Mary dresses for death as a queen dresses for appearance, deliberately. Cloth matters again, bearing matters, posture matters. The body, denied power, can still choose form. She cannot call back the letter, she cannot unwrite the page, she cannot slip the English net, but she can meet the end standing inside her own name. There is grandeur in that, and sorrow, and something sharper still, because this is not the triumph of innocence. It is the last composure of a woman who reached for history and found the state waiting with open hands. She mounts the scaffold. Around her are wood, steel, prayer, officials, witnesses, all the practical furniture of a legal killing. Nothing mystical, no thunder, no omen, just the hard carpentry of power, doing what power does when frightened long enough. And Mary, who had been reduced for years to rumour, correspondence, memory, and watched movement, becomes in the last moments unmistakably herself again, not free, not victorious, but royal. That is the sting. England did not destroy her by leaving her no choice. It destroyed her by leaving her one narrow, glittering, fatal road back into action. She took it, and the letter that let her feel like a queen again was the letter that killed her.